fellow riders, and welcome back to Airhead Barn. We are still with our R75/7 restoration project, where today in this episode I'm going to report one of the issues that we were recently facing. So as you know, we completely restored that bike and bike was running flawlessly, everything worked great. But what happened this summer is some really strange behavior. So whenever I was experiencing some extremely hot outside temperature, bike would just start misfiring, sputtering, dying. It would actually fire inside the exhaust and it would be almost impossible to ride it. What is even worse, if temperature would immediately drop down, for several degrees, bike will continue running perfectly normal, and then when you hit the hot pocket of air again, it would start giving like ridiculous problems. So and those kind of things are sometimes can be pretty normal here in Colorado. Difference in temperature between shaded part and sunny part is like more than 10 degrees, 15 sometimes. And what I experienced is, for instance, riding in a mountains where temperatures are, really nice, and it's pleasure to ride. Bike would just be amazing. You wouldn't feel any problem. And then when I would head back home and just going to lower elevation, for instance, when I would come back to Boulder, where temperatures during this summer, they can go like up to 100 degrees. It would be almost impossible to ride that bike. So since bike is completely restored, we changed everything, carbs. We have new jogs. We inspected and restored also cylinder heads. My biggest suspect here is actually that something is going on with the ignition. Nevertheless, I checked the gas, so it's coming to the carb. Carb balls are gas inside is at a normal level. What else? I measured the compression, and it's really running strong as it should. So I wanted to check, what's going on with that ignition. So I first started with the simple things that I could hopefully rule out until I come to the resolution of this problem. So first thing that I did, I changed the spark plugs for the bike, and it did not help. Next thing, what I decided to do is I change cables, and I have them on my R8 EST, exactly same NGK cables, and nothing helped. Next thing that I needed to do is I replaced ignition coils. So since this one originally had points, my R75/7, it required 3 ohm coils. Essentially, in original coils where those two big condensers each having 1.5 ohms, and then you can get a modern ignition coils where it's dual tower and it has 3 ohm impedance. Unfortunately, I didn't have that one in my garage, because other bike that I have is basically using 1.5 ohm, or it can also use 0.7 ohms, but I didn't have 3 ohms, so I needed to order that one, and it came. I put it in, it didn't help. Before that, I was able to measure the resistance, from cap to cap, and it was showing around 23 kilo ohms, which is perfectly fine, for 5 kilo ohm caps. Everything is how it's supposed to be, but bike is really not working fine. That brought me to the conclusion that actually my ignition is bad. If you remember, when we were putting bike together, I had that electronic ignition from EnDuraLast that is mounted directly on a alternator rotor. There is a disc that rotates, and then there is LED light that disk is breaking and sends the signal, to the main module, and then main module is connected to the ignition coil and determines when your spark plugs are going to ignite. I went through troubleshooting for that timing ignition given by EnDuraLast. It seems that I was able to get easily a spark on my spark plugs, but the question is timing of that spark plug. I could see spark, but I wasn't sure that it's coming in the right time. And the bike would, normally when it's cold, it would start perfectly fine, warm up. I would take it for a ride, and then in next 10 minutes when bike warms up and when outside temperature is really hot, it will start misbehaving. And I'm not saying that I didn't have any spark. I definitely had it, but it was firing late. So what would happen is actually I would have ignition inside my exhaust, which would result in a huge bang sound. One time I was coming from Boulder, I was passing by a police car when that thing just almost exploded, and those guys turned toward me. I don't know what they were thinking, but yeah, so it wasn't a pleasant look on their face. Anyway, this needs to be resolved, and I hope that new ignition is going to help me here. I could go back and install, advanced system with the points and condenser, how it was originally there. Not sure that I really want to do that. I would rather have, electronic ignition, but the one that works fine. So in that case, probably I'm not going with another EnDuraLast product, because this one just didn't prove to be okay. If I assume that's the ignition problem, but it seems that I kind of rule out all other things that could be. I would appreciate if you can leave your comments, what you think that might be causing this. In the meantime, I'll probably pull the trigger and order wedge tail, and then that what I'm hearing and reading about it, it's amazing ignition system. And since I need new one and definitely want to stay with electronic ignition, I think there is no other option for me here. So that's what I'm going to do. Most likely, whenever it arrives, I'll shoot another video of a whole installation of that wedge tail ignition, and hopefully that resolves my problem. So finger crossed, and please stay tuned. Thanks for watching.